everyone, I have a dose for you today. I thought today we would get back to basics and talk about the bones between the foot and the pelvis. So each foot has a correlate to each part of the leg running up into your pelvis. And we think of the pelvis, we think the hips, we think the sits bones, the pubic bone, and how we're putting our weight through those bones makes a difference on how happy our back is. So happy hips, happy back. And we're going to use some touch, and I'm going to use, be modeling with myself. I'm going to use the spine and pelvis model today to help clarify some of this movement pathways. So movement travels along the skin of our bones. Isn't that cool? I just think that's so wonderful. And when we touch our bones, it helps clarify where they are, right? Helps them feel that relationship to the earth, which is our primary relationship. And because that movement travels along the bones, the more we can feel them in relationship to the ground, it helps us develop our sense of proprioception, which is our sense of where we are in space and how we're moving. So every time we feel that pathway of movement through the bones, it helps the muscles get clear about how to move and just how much to fire. So it's not just about muscular engagement, it's about using the bones in relationship, their relationship with each other and their relationship to the ground. And this gets us really clear about how we are when we're just sitting or when we're moving. So let's start clarifying that pathway right now, okay? So I'm going to stand, and let's get real. Actually, first off, I want you to know I'm using the front of the chair for when I sit. I'm using my wedge. Here's a side view. Wedge is thicker in the back than in the front. So more on that later. If you don't have a wedge, it's not a big deal. You can fold a blanket. I've got one under my feet right now, and I can show you how to do that in a little bit. All right. So clarifying the pathway. I've got my hand on my left hip here, and I'm touching the widest part of the top of my thigh. I'm going to push it out just to make it more obvious. So this is actually the top of the thigh bone, okay? So if I come in front, same side, pubic half, and if I bring my hands together halfway each to the middle, there's my hip joint. Look at that. So widest part of the outer thigh and the pubic half, they come together, and then I find the hip joint. And that is different from the hip bone, which is up here at the level of my waist. Look how far apart those actually are. So I'm going to grab the bone model now and just help you get a clear view of that. All right? So here's my hip bone, here's the hip bone on the model. Look at that. And then here's that widest part of the thigh bone I told you about, yeah, that's this part, and then pubic half in front, pubic bone. So this is left leg, left hip half, all right, and this joint is a ball and socket joint. So if this fist is the top of my thigh bone and this is the pelvic half, this is the socket part, right? And so this is the ball, and they excursion around each other, all right? So in a forward bend, the top of the thigh is moving back and deep into that socket while that socket is rolling over it. So that's a healthy relationship when that's happening, all right? So with the model, there it is. I'm going to show you on the other side. Doesn't have the thigh bone in it. You can see how deep that socket is. So every time I bend, I want to think of the top of the hip bone diving over the front of the thigh. See how that is? And I'll do it myself. All right? And I don't know if you can see, but this pubic bone is moving through my thighs. And that's enabling my body now to come closer to the ground. All right? Back view of the pelvis, you have the whole vertebral column, base of the spine here between the two pelvic halves. And then dangling way down low to that is the tailbone. All right? So if I'm bending healthfully in the hip socket, my spine is safe. Right? And it doesn't have to do unnecessary bending for the sake of bending. Now, it's not that we can't take our spine into flexion or extension, moving it forward and backward or side to side or even rotating it. We can do all those things with the spine, absolutely. It's when we get stuck in one position all the time that gets problematic for the spine. All right, so clarify that pathway, or those bones anyway, of this left pelvic calf. I'm going to do it on the right. Pop out that right hip, find that top of the thigh, find the right pubic calf, come together, meet in the middle, there's the socket. So I'm going to let both hips dive over the front of the thighs, pubic bone going through the legs. Now, let's clarify another bone that's really important in this equation. If I take my one hand around to the side and feel into the flesh, the base of my buttocks, there is my sits bone. Sits bone, you think that might be for sitting? It is. All right, so as the pubic bone goes through my legs, my sit bone drives out like a little bird beak. You know, you can almost see it popping out, okay? So that is really good to get clear and feel by touching with your own hands, clarifying those bones, all right? So if I let both hips bend together, right, and then I'm not quite to my chair, so I don't want to just drop. I have to bend the other joint. So I'm going to let my knees bend a little bit. It takes me lower, touch down, and there I am. All right. Now I'm going to come back up for a moment. I want to explain something to you. Because the abdominal muscles hook into this pubic bone, if you're holding unnecessary grippy tension, when you start to bend, it's not going to let your hip joints move very easily. And it's going to start to pull my pelvis under, or you could think of it as a tuck, or like a scared dog, you know, their tail curls under. And then when I sit, I'm actually sitting on my tailbone. And I don't know if you can see, I just got shorter, right? My back is in flexion. It's rounded in the back, and I'm really compressed in the front. This is really common to do on our couch because it's harder to feel our bones in the softness of the couch. All right, so I'm going to relax my abdomen, get hold of the chair, forget about all that. Now watch, I'm going to lift my butt a little bit and have the intention to put my tail behind me. Okay, tail behind you when you go to sit. Now pause for a moment and feel, what am I touching? Touching the chair, I'm touching the floor, and I'm going to find those bony landmarks again. Pubic calf, right? Hip joint. Now I'm going to lean forward and to the right a little bit, get my left hand under my left butt, and using my hand kind of up, and there's that sit bone again. There's that sit bone. You know, your pubic bone on this half and your sit bone, they're really close together. They're on the same branch of bone initially, all right? So I use my hand, I feel the bone, then I just relax and feel my bones settle into my hand. I can take my hand out, and now I'm just letting that bone settle onto the furniture. In this case, it's the chair, all right? Now I'm gonna do it on the other side as well. I'm gonna find the hip joint, bend forward, even lean to the left a little bit, right hand under, find that bone, press up into it. Okay, there it is, right? That begins to clarify where I want my weight to fall. And now I'm going to just change my focus, let the bones settle into my hand, remove my hand, bones settling into the chair. All right? So clarifying these bones of the pelvis, each hip half. Now let's take it into the leg. I'm going to start with my right leg. All right, so I found pubic bone, sit bone, and the hip joint. Now, there's a relationship I said earlier between the foot and the pelvic half, right? So right foot, right foreleg, right leg, right pelvic half. Here we go. I'm gonna reach down with my hand. Big toe runs up, meets my pubic bone. Second toe runs up. Guess what that means? Sits bone. Third toe runs up, hip joint. Isn't it interesting? Middle toe, middle of foot, middle of ankle, middle of knee. Guess where it lands? Middle of hip. Isn't that wonderful? So just use your hands here, trace up, just do those first 3 toes together, and just want to recognize that that movement travels up every one of these bones in this pathway, and it goes into your spine, and it will continue out through your head. First 3 toes, front body awareness, okay? Now, go out to the outer side of your foot. You got 4th toe and 5th toe. Can touch, scratch, brush up the outside of your leg, outside of your thigh, into the back of your pelvis. What? Outer foot, back of pelvis. One more time. Touch, trace, get clear. Feel the bones themselves. You can spend as much time as you want just really touching, massaging. You know, you might feel some tension. Remember, tension blocks our ability to yield, to rest into whatever we're in contact with, okay? So, clarifying the relationship of the foot into the pelvic half. Now, I'm going to sit here for a moment, feel that sit bone, feel the feet bones, big toe mound, baby toe mound, and heel. Remember, it's like a tripod. And I'm going to just initiate a little push from the big toe side of my foot. So if I think big toe to heel push, I felt it. It went up my leg. And I feel it more up that inside. Can you feel that? Initiating from inside of the foot push. Okay. Now try it with that outer side of your foot. Try the baby toe side. Push. Is that different? Do you feel that run up the outside of your leg to the back of your pelvis? So cool. Yeah? All right. So, feeling that sit bone, resting. All right. Now, again, if I was to collapse back, feeling pressure more on my tailbone, I'm squashing these vital organs in front, which are actually helpful in helping me feel my sense of volume, right? Front to back, that I'm not a paper doll, I'm a multi-dimensional creature. So again, this is something to really notice on your couch or in your car, right? But we're in a homestay right now, more time sitting around. So what do you need to do to be more conscious about where your bones are? All right. So let's just trace that pathway of the other leg. Let's just do first 3 toes up the front and inside of the leg to the front and under part of your pelvis. Yeah. And then 4th and 5th toes running up the outside to the back of your pelvis. Yeah. First 3 toes up the inside, up the front body. Outside of the foot, 4th and 5th toes up the outside, back of the pelvis, runs up the back of your spine out through your head that way. Yeah? All right, now I'm gonna feel that foot connect to the floor, and let's push with the outer side of your foot. Push straight down, feel the ground touching your foot. Right where they meet, that's where that spark of movement begins. So I push into it and I felt that rebound up my leg, up into my body. How about you? Did it go all the way up? How high did it go? Press with the big toe side of your foot now. Yeah. So you don't have to hoist yourself up. You just have to feel the down. That's what takes us up. So wonderful, isn't it? All right, now, I want you to feel both feet pushing. Yeah? Yeah? So both feet pressing down. There's this balance of front of pelvis, back of pelvis, and it's helping me get that sense of that movement traveling up through my spine, tail to head, right? So my hips, knees, and ankles and feet are servicing my spine and staying elongated. So wonderful. I'm going to move my blanket out a little bit, just get my feet more on the floor. I really love to feel that path of bone, that contact connection. And then ready, rocking a little bit in the hips, right? Letting my tail stay behind me, push, and I can stand back up. Okay? I'm going to bring my blanket back in because I need that in a moment. And then hips, knees, ankles bend. Remember, relaxing tail behind you. You bend in the joints in the amount you need to get you low enough to sit. Right? So I'm seated, again, you can always use your hands. Put them under those sit bones. Ah, there they are. Let them drop. Hands come out, all right? Now, happy hips, happy spine, right? We're gonna start from the foot into moving into the ankle. Now in the footwork video, I did a little bit of this action called slide and glide. This is a lubricating move for the ankle. Yeah, you feel it? Now I'm gonna take it out and raise it almost like I have my foot on the gas and press the gas, right? Taking that big toe mound, baby toe mound to the floor and then slide it in. You can go out, up, push the gas, go down. Let's switch feet, sliding forward, sliding back. Simple moves you can do here, there, and everywhere. Maybe you're hanging out at the dinner table longer, having dinner with someone. Or if not, just sitting, whenever you find yourself sitting. These are easy to do right on the floor. So notice, watch, did your foot do that? Did it turn out? Right? Losing its big toe connection, kind of collapsing this pelvic half. So, or does it tend to roll in? And again, it's not that you can't do it. You just want to stay conscious of what you're doing. Push the gas. Slide it forward. Push the gas. Glide it back. Lubricating the ankle joint. Okay. So, I'm going to slide right foot out. Keep it there. I'm going to slide left foot out. Now, I'm going to open this, lift this foot and think of initiating some ankle rolling through that big toe. Huh? And I'm going to go the other way. And I'm going to initiate from that baby toe side of my foot. Now, again, just do these things and notice, can I feel that travel up the outside of my leg or the inside of my leg, respectively, depending on where you put your attention. Okay? Now, I'm going to let my pelvic half, my knee, my ankle, and my foot all moving together. Remember, this is relational movement. Roll out. And then I'm going to slide that ankle on the other ankle and slide it up. Now, at this point, I'm going to reach down, slide it up over my thigh. I can bring that bottom foot in, and look at this. Number 4. It's like I'm sitting in a cross-legged position. This one doesn't disturb the pelvis that much, so therefore the spine won't be so disturbed. Now this is another good place to do some footwork. That ankle rolling, again, you could initiate from the big toe side or the baby toe side, or change your focus back and forth. You could also do that slide and glide here. Using your hand, you can massage, right? All parts of the foot. So stay with that as much as you want. And then look, I can still feel my sit bones and bend in these hip creases and lean a little forward into it, and wow, I'm getting a big stretch in my hip. So what I say, happy hip, happy back. If you're having some low back discomfort, achy fatigue, maybe from too much sitting, this is a great stretch to do, and it's so accessible. Couldn't be more handy. You could just pretend you dropped your napkin and you're reaching down to get it if you're, hanging out with somebody. What you don't want to do is disturb the pathway of the other leg. So if I let my bottom leg collapse in, then put weight on this, I'm going to start to collapse. Yeah? So this is a strengthened pathway. All right? I could also just hold this leg up. I could play with moving that thigh outward. Yeah? So I'm getting a nice stretch here. I could do some hip circles here, just supporting the knee. And I'm still feeling the sits bones versus rolling back on my tailbone, right? Where now I'm just stretching my back more than anything, right? So going both ways, foot back to the floor. And because that was asymmetrical, I was only doing one side, I'm going to pause, notice what feels different, and then I always find it's pretty good idea to just reposition, reorient, settle, right? Feeling both sit bones and how running up the midline of my body, right? You know it as central axis, your vertebrae and your head. This is all balancing right over that space between the two sit bones. Yeah? All right. So, going to slide my left foot forward. Right foot forward, going to roll that one out, cross at the ankle, begin to slide it up and then bring it the rest of the way over. What I don't want to do is sickle my foot too much. See how that's overstretching my outside of my ankle? So let that cross over. And again, you could do some gas pedal right here. You could do your circles right here. You could do some wonderful foot massage. Touch your feet, especially if they hurt. Give them some tender attention, right? Tender and attention, remember, they have the same root, okay? And this is my tighter hips. I'm really feeling that pull up the outside. And you know what? Interestingly, but pretty obviously, the widest part of my foot, these 4th and 5th toes are also, this side of my foot is also more sore, just like the outside of my leg. And that's where it would hurt, back there. All right? So sometimes our, feel one pain in one part, you probably have a sore spot in its correlate in another part of your body. So massaging, also leaning a little bit into it. Now remember, I'm keeping my head and my tail aligned, my forehead, my pubic bone aligned. That's that midline. Hanging out and just breathing here. If you want to be a little more active, you could get your arms involved and do a little tree pose. Foot on the earth, rooting, hands rising up. Yeah. And then you can just slide that leg off, give it a little shake, give it a hip circle, and you could totally flip-flop these two exercises. Doesn't really matter which one you do first. Do what feels good to you. And pause again. Notice, did your sit bones get awry in that? Do you just need to reposition? That's the simplest way to begin finding ease when you sit is find the bones, let them settle, feel your feet on the earth, right? Reclining back on a sofa or a chair is a little more advanced. Maybe we'll get into that another time. I think that's enough for now. So please play with these things. Keep cultivating your relationships, body part to body part and body to earth. Wouldn't be a bad idea to watch this video again to do it. You might want to do the arriving practice first. You could do the footwork dose first. Be a good prequel to this. So I will see you again soon.